I'm Dr. Amol Gupta, and I want to thank you for joining me on another episode of Medicine Mentors, where we interview masters in medicine, leading physicians at the top universities across the United States to learn from their experiences and derive key insights, traits, and best practices that can guide medical students and residents. Today we have a very distinguished guest, Dr. Javed Butler. Dr. Butler is professor and chairman of the Department of Medicine at the University of Mississippi. Prior to joining University of Mississippi, Dr. Butler was the director of the Division of Cardiovascular Medicine and co-director of the Heart Institute at Stony Brook University in New York. He has served as the director for the heart failure research at Emory and the director of the heart and lung transplant programs at Vanderbilt University prior to that. After completing his medical school in Pakistan, Dr. Butler completed his residency from Yale and fellowships from Vanderbilt and Harvard. He has also completed his master's in public health degree from Harvard and an MBA from Emory. He serves on several national committees for the American College of Cardiology, the American Heart Association, and the National Institute of Health, and was recently elected as a member of the prestigious Association of University Cardiologists. He's the recipient of the Simon Dack Award by the American College of Cardiology and the Time, Feeling, and Focus Award by the American Heart Association. Dr. Butler has authored more than 450 peer-reviewed publications and serves on the editorial board of several peer-reviewed cardiovascular journals, including the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, Circulation, and the European Journal of Heart Failure. He's been cited many times in America's Best Doctors list. Thank you so much, Dr. Butler, for joining us today on this podcast.
That was an unbelievably kind introduction. Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be here.
Dr. Butler, when I look at your background, and I've seen you've obtained multiple boards, you have an MPH, you have an MBA, which is very rare in medicine. And as an immigrant to this country, coming from Pakistan, you've risen to become a chair of medicine, awarded by ACC, AHA. It seems like from a CV point of view, you've achieved most of what there is to achieve in medicine. Yet every article that I read about you online talks about you as a kind person and a kind human being, which is not very common when we read academic profiles. How have you managed to balance achievement and kindness?
So one, I'm a little bit sort of overwhelmed that people would write about me and associate the word kindness, but I take it very well. But I would say that it's something which is important to me. I think I look at the world incredibly flat and non-hierarchical. And to me, communicating with the dean of my med school or the janitor who comes in the evening to clean my room is literally one and the same thing, because a lot of what happens to us, and I don't want to undermine people and their struggles and their enthusiasm, but at the end of the day, so much of what happens to us is actually determined by the social lottery of which family we are born in and what is our background, and not only our social lottery, but our genetic lottery and our IQ and this, that, the other, and all of those things. And then you obviously work on that to refine it and make it better. But a lot of it is given to you. So it's tough to not be kind to people who are behind you and who are trying to come up. So I think these are all subconscious things that guide your behavior. But in principle, I look at the world incredibly flat and non-hierarchical.
So from your childhood, were you always a high achiever, or was there a moment or a decision in your life when things really changed for you?
So I would say that my parents, like anybody from South Asia, had very high expectations of their children and won't let you slide. And fun always came after work. So work ethics, and by work ethics, I mean not only educational work ethics, but outside of education also in terms of cleaning your bed, whatever. I mean, work ethics was really, really important for them. So that was instilled to me as a child.
You talk about work ethic, and today we're reading all these articles, and a lot of physicians seem to be facing burnout or emotional exhaustion. And the immediate solution seems, reduce the work hours. What is the real problem of burnout? Is it the work hours or something else?
To me, the question is 2 points. One is whether you perceive meaningfulness in what you're doing. So it's not a job, but it's a passion, it's a meaning, you're trying to achieve something. It's not about a paycheck. It's not about paying your mortgages. You're engaged in something that is more meaningful than that. So that's sort of one thing. And then the other is whether you are lucky enough or whether you are intelligent enough to seek what you like to do. And obviously these two are overlapping domains, not totally distinct, but not exactly the same. So meaningfulness, and you do what you like to do. And I think if the two things combine, then the burnout issues get mitigated a little bit, because whatever you're doing is really fun. So, if I am sitting on the beach with my laptop, editing papers or writing papers, to me, that is just not work. So I am unbelievably blessed that I usually come to my office somewhere between, say, around 6:30 in the morning or so, and I usually leave office about 7 or 8 at night. There are real life things to contend with, and quality measures and budgets and hospital and all that kind of stuff. But besides those real life things, talking with residents and fellows and writing papers and thinking about the next question and whatnot, that is just not work. That's all fun. So it's tough to be burnt out when you're having fun.
When you talk about meaning, there's a number of younger students and residents, people who are in my stage, and we don't seem to have found our calling yet. Nothing that we're absolutely passionate about. What's the best way for us to identify that?
So my bias is that finding your calling has a much better negative predictive value than positive predictive value, because we are actually far more flexible as human beings and in our psychological construct than we give ourselves credit for. So there are certain things that you would just hate doing that you would know. But what are the things that you would love doing? You actually don't know, and you can probably love doing 10 different things. So to me, it is more important to find out what you absolutely don't like doing, because if you get stuck with that career, that will be really tough. So, again, as cliche as it is, and it's probably true for many of us, but when I was going through medical school, every rotation that I went through, at the end of the rotation, that's what I wanted, right? I wanted to be a pediatrician. I wanted to be an internist. I wanted to be a nephrologist. But there were few rotations that I'm like, I cannot get out of this rotation. I'm never going to be this. So for instance, I could never have been dermatologist. Great job, great lifestyle. Everything is good about dermatology. This is not a ding about dermatology. There was something about me in dermatology. There is no way I could have been. So I think knowing what you don't want to do is sort of step one. So then if you have figured out what you don't want to do, then the question is, of all the things that are otherwise left on the table, then you have to come up with some sort of a best mix of best opportunity that is available times your best interest.
One of the key purposes of this podcast is to understand mentorship and to understand what is the role of mentorship today in medical education. You've seen as a resident, a fellow, a junior faculty, a senior faculty. Now you're heading the department. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you've seen mentorship evolve over the last few years?
Yeah, so that will show my age a little bit here, and in part because I am a little bit sort of concerned the way things have evolved, although they have evolved for the very right reason. But anything taken to a certain extreme then starts becoming dysfunctional. So I belong to an era where, there were no sort of ACGME rules in training, and people were running into accidents post-call because they haven't slept in 3 nights and all that kind of stuff. So, that had to change. The question is that when that goes to the other extreme, where you're even concerned that somebody wants to volunteer and do something more, but then, you're concerned that there are rules that would prohibit somebody's passion to volunteer and do something. So that's a little bit of a tricky thing. I think that at the end of the day, if you look at in any distribution curve, whether it's a fat-tailed or a thin-tailed Gaussian distribution, at the end of the day, there will be people who will be at the two extremes, right? So you cannot expect people to be Da Vinci or Michelangelo by, working 30 hours a week. People just give their life to something. So if you find the right passion, then working, as I said, 80 hours a week is just not an issue. So coming to the question that you asked in terms of the mentorship, the best mentor-mentee relationship in my mind, first of all, it's a two-way track. So you cannot expect your mentee to do some things that is not in the mentee's wheelhouse, and they have to do it because they want to make your career, because successful mentees are also very busy people, right? So you have to meld into what they are doing, not expect them to develop something entirely new for you because that's what you like to do. Now, there are three kind of mentors out there, and you have to be a little bit careful. There are folks out there who are really, really senior and have done everything in life. But if you look at their CVs, it's all about themselves, right? Then you have the other end, and this will definitely not come out sounding the right way. But people are sort of die-hard sort of, mentors who want to help you, except they just don't have the skill set to be able to help you. And if you get stuck with a mentor like that, who not only says all the right thing, but actually means all the right thing, but they just don't have the tools to help you, then it can become a little bit of a frustrating thing. So this whole matchmaking between your mentor, mentee, what your passion is, and a person who is secure enough that it's not about them, it's about you, that's where sort of the magic happens. So this is sort of age-long sort of a thing, and that will sort of never change. And if anything, in this day and age, with all the electronic capabilities we have, this has actually gotten a whole lot better because you can have a lot of distant mentors. You don't have to have the mentor who you see 3 times a week right next to you. So a lot of the distant mentorship also occurs. And last comment is that to me, mentorship is more about science. Mentorship is making somebody's career. So you have to connect them to, whatever the scientific circles, teach them sort of the scientific, become their father or mother for their grooming, not only about how to think science, how to write papers, but how to make your life, how to interact with professional societies and journals and job negotiations and all that kind of stuff that goes into all of those things become important.
So I totally understand the benefit that we can get from a mentor, but how do we help our mentor? Because it seems as if they're in the position to help, and that's the reason many times we feel hesitant to reach out because we don't really know how we can repay the favor.
Yeah. So the two things that I will say, one is be truthful and honest. There is absolutely nothing can come right in life by being dishonest. Dishonesty will only have short-term gain. The world is not going to be a better place if it is predicated on bases that are developed out of dishonesty. And then the second thing is that, as I said earlier, mentors are really busy people. And, even one person who I look up to right now, and I'm actually doing several trials with this person, is 92 years old, right? And if you look at his passion, it is no different than my passion in 50s, is no different than somebody I'm mentoring in their 30s. So the passion never goes away. So in other words, mentors are trying to achieve a lot even when they are 92 years old. So if you go and say that I'm going to learn the tricks of the trade by helping you what you want to do, then that's great because they are teaching you, but while they are teaching you, you are also forwarding their mission. On the other hand, if you go to a mentor and they're really well-meaning people, you have a very fixed idea of what research you want to do. And that's not what they're doing or thinking about right now. Then they have to find time and part of their brain and part of a day to be able to think through something for what you like to do.
As we focus on achievement and building a career, time management seems to be an issue. You do so much from clinical, academic, research, administrative. Are there certain practices you follow that help you stay up to date with whatever you're doing?
Yeah, one thing that I really, really try to do is that during my daytime, not waste time. So for instance, what I would do is, this is a large complex, and in my administrative role, I have to go to a lot of meetings, and some of the meetings are 4 buildings apart, which is like, a 7 minutes walk. And then I have to make a lot of phone calls. So all my phone calls during the day for doing this, that, the other is when I'm walking from meeting to meeting. So that is sort of one time management thing. And then the second time management thing is that there are certain things that will drop if you don't focus on them, because there's so much to do that if you just keep taking care of the biggest burning bush in front of you, then there are certain things that are not burning but critical. You will never get to them. So for those things, you have to make them sacred and find them. So for instance, my research fellow right now, no matter what happens, no matter what's happening in the hospital or whatever is going on, there are 2 1.5-hour slots in the week, Monday and Thursday, They are untouchables.
So out of all the elements that you've shared with us today, what's one thing that you wish you knew when you started medical school or residency that you want everyone to take to heart and practice?
Both in good ways and in bad ways, you will always, always, always get the result of what you do. And nobody is smart enough to not get what they sow. So if you are able to manipulate someone and that person is not in a position to retaliate and you win in your manipulation, there is karma that will come from somewhere else that will get you. And on the other hand, if you do something good, righteous, right thing, and in return you come out empty-handed, don't worry, you will get repaid by karma in some other way.
This has been extremely insightful, and I'm very grateful to you for your time. I'm taking away a lot, and I'm going to try to summarize what I've heard from you into really 3 or 4 pearls of wisdom that I think we can all use walking out of this session today. The first thing that you mentioned is that despite you being at the top of what we would call an academic hierarchy, you mentioned many times that the world is flat, which is so unique because even those of us who are at the beginning of our careers, we feel this difference. We don't take the time to know the names of the janitor or the cafeteria staff who are working next to us every day in the hospital. When we develop that world is flat mentality, rather than just talking to the guys who will write us nice LORs, ensuring we respect everybody with that same level, I think that's something that we can really take away from your life. I'd say the second thing is that you gave us this equation, and I'll call it the meaningfulness equation. Align the best opportunity with your best interest. And I think that means a lot because so many of us have a hard time finding meaning, that when we're giving an equation, it seems like things just get better, and I think we can really apply that. And I'd say the third thing is that we should not be afraid to reach out with mentors if we go with the mindset of helping them achieve their mission and their passion. And in that process, imbibing and ingraining the key values and the key principles that will be the stepping stone for our own success. And that ability to give back to a mentor, I think that really opens up the doors in our ability to reach out to them, because now we become fearless. So this was phenomenal.
You're a fast thinker, but I very much appreciate the opportunity to have this short talk with you. Thank you.
To our audience, thank you for tuning in with us here on the Medicine Mentors. Thank you for joining us as we learn from the Masters of Medicine.